Backstory. So I, 26 female, had parents who were very patriarchal. My mom miscarried a boy before me, so she and my dad kinda resented me until she had my 21 male brother. They did things like, they gave the newborn baby my whole room and made me sleep on the couch at 5 years old until we moved to a bigger place. They never parentified me because they thought I would hurt my brother or something, but they expected me to drop everything I had for him. They made me move in with my grandparents at 14 for something, because boys need space sometimes. My grandparents were no better because they were A and expected so much of a girl. Like 4 years ago, I found out I wasn't on my parents' will for anything. Not even a single antique earring from my mother, and when I was upset, they told me they never loved me as their own. A fight broke out where so many nasty things were said, and, well, they disowned me and put it in writing. It was more of they removed me from their family records, and my last name was changed to my mother's maiden name. Recently they passed away, and yeah, my brother, a college dropout, who was living with them, inherited everything. From what I heard, he has been in rehab like twice, jail like 5 times, and he has like 2 baby mamas. So his life is great. Long story short, my parents had almost $1 million in debt. I don't even know how they thought they could pay it back before they passed. And my brother, who doesn't even have a job, has to pay it all off. He and some of my family are calling me non-stop, telling me I shouldn't ruin the life of a young boy. And since I make 6 figures a year, I should take the debt. Now, I don't duck with any crap, so I changed my number, and anyone who talked to me about it immediately unfriended. But now I am thinking, maybe my brother was just made out of circumstances, and I don't know, maybe I should help. It isn't all his fault, it is my parents'. I want to know whether this relationship is worth saving, and whether I turn over a new leaf. I've always wanted a sibling. I just want advice on what I should do. Should I forget he ever existed and maybe even move countries? Or should I make patch old wounds? Are you in the US? Unless he signed anything, your deceased parents' debt doesn't transfer to him. Alternatively, do not take any debt. It sounds like they were afforded every advantage you weren't and are still in this position. Please don't take this debt. It's just silly. It doesn't sound like you've ever had a relationship with your brother, and your entire family has never treated you like family. The only reason they have contacted you is because they need something from you, something big. These are entitled and toxic people. You need to avoid them at all costs. Your brother was given every opportunity you weren't, and has still messed up his life. Don't let him mess up your life too. Oh. Canada. My fiancé and I both grew up very low class. Most of our family members are on welfare, and none have any post-secondary aside from one of her brothers. They all either make like $800 a month on welfare, or $12 an hour part-time, and that's it, both sides. We both worked every summer since grade 10, and part-time all through our following high school, college, university years, to be debt-free. Now that I, 22 male, am graduated and make $110K a year as a software engineer, and she, 23 female, makes $65K working with kids that have autism, both of our families are expecting us to start funding their lives. My mother said I need to pay for her and my younger brother's rent, $800 a month, and her phone bill, $135 a month, because they have no money for food or anything, and she raised me, and I owe her back the money she spent when I was growing up. She's a single mom with me and my brother, 7 male. Her parents not only are no longer willing to help with our wedding, and made a huge deal of it in front of their whole family, saying respect is a two-way street. They were going to give us like $700 that someone else, a grandparent, put into an account for her when she was young. And now they aren't going to, which I could care less about, but they seem to think it's massive. They're mad because they want us to, number 1, give 10% of our gross income, so like $1,450 a month to their church, and pay for her other brother's school, $3K a semester, and pay them $500 a week because things are tight right now, and it's our responsibility to look after less fortunate. Further, they promised the pastor at the church that we would start paying around $1,500 a month to it, and it's a small failing church, so he's been making plans and telling everyone in the small town they live in. I literally had the parent of someone I went to school with come up to me at Tim Hortons and thank me for my pledge to the church. That's how I found out. Only 2 months ago, neither side had ever asked us for money, and then when I graduated, I told them both our combined income like an absolute idiot. What do I do here? I don't want to give them money, but also I want us to still be close to our families. Edit. We are not religious at all, and I would never donate to a church because I could just donate the same money to the food bank, and it would feed people. It's going to sound harsh, but cut them off. Don't give them anything. They are gaslighting and guilt-tripping you for their own faults, and that's not your job. A mother keeping you fed as a child is the minimum. and is only used as backlash by a narcissistic person. If they are not willing to work full-time or have two part-time jobs to make it, that's on them, not you. You do not need to make up for them not trying. If you give them anything, they will come back, demanding it was not enough. And how dare they give away your money without asking you? So, here we go. I, 28 female, got engaged, 29 female, around November. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the timing of the engagement, but I accepted because I knew I wanted to marry him. Right after we got engaged, our relationship seemed to just go downhill super fast. We started to jump into wedding planning. We were fighting about the ring. That's a whole other backstory. And then he seemed to have some financial problems that he wasn't being transparent about. For example, Christmas rolled around and he said he would help with Christmas gifts. I usually make a spreadsheet of who, what, and how much. And he said he would help out. He never did. He bought just a few gifts he was responsible for. Then, at the end of the month, he told me he wouldn't be giving me money in January for rent, bills. I own the house, but he likes to pay for half of it, and half bills, and some grocery money. When he told me that, I was annoyed, but thought, whatever, I'm gonna marry this man. Maybe it's just a small hurdle before we start our lives. So, when 2022 wedding planning is in full swing, we made an agreement to have him keep the money he pays me monthly, about $1,200, and put that into an account that would be my contribution, and he would add a little extra if he could. So, here's where things go to absolute crap. He is a financial advisor, became one around 2020. He lived with me not having to pay anything while he studied for his licensing, which took about a year. He took over my parents' finances. I'm an only child for your information, and was helping my mom with her retirement and my dad with some stocks he had purchased. They had a plan in place. Apparently, my dad had some very cool big tech stocks he had purchased in the early 2000s, and my fiance's job was to take over management of them. One night we were sitting down to dinner, and my dad calls him. I can hear my dad is upset, because his accountant said he now owed money for capital gains taxes. They talk for a while, and then fiance realizes he made an error. Instead of taking over management of them, he sold the stocks and bought a fund my dad didn't even know about. So I was annoyed, and he did not sleep, and tried to see if it was fixable, and even tried to put in a claim the next day. He feels horrible. At the same time, our first down deposit rolls in, and we need to put $1,300 down for the photographer. And I tell fiance, perfect, we should have double that by now. His card doesn't go through. So I pay it. I figure he'll pay me back, it's just an error. This is where things get weird. Earlier on, my parents agreed to help out with about half the wedding expenses. So when our venue contract comes in, he says we shouldn't sign it because he doesn't want my parents helping with the wedding anymore, because of what happened. And quite honestly, to me, after all the hoops I went through for the 3 months to get that contract, and him by my side the whole time, for him to say that felt like he kind of just called the wedding off completely. So I am extremely hurt, and we get into an argument about it, and I tell him, it's not my fault you messed up, but they still love me and want to help, so let them. It's not my fault you ducked up their stocks. To which he proceeds he never ducked up, that he actually helped them because they sold at an all-time high. So he switches the story around. Also, I'm an accountant, so I know a thing or two. Then proceeds to tell me he's sorry about not paying the deposit, but his debit card was stolen. How convenient. So, time goes on, these arguments keep popping up. I'm out a couple grand, and he's flip-flopping on his story and begins to have this robotic salesman sort of attitude. Like, very not genuine. We separate for a little because arguments just don't stop. He wants to know what he can do to make it right, and I tell him to talk to my parents. He's lucky they were very forgiving, but very firm with him at first. But when they caught wind, he didn't think it was his error, that he was helping them. It really set them off. My mom even cried because she couldn't understand why he would do that, and my dad will probably not let this go. It was sad because they have been extremely good to him, and only wanted to be his client to help him out, and had even recently purchased him a $500 safe. I'm extremely sad and embarrassed that he did this to my parents, and put me out of all this money. Not to mention, I have to explain that the wedding is off to my family and vendors. I'm not sure what to do. I feel like I gave him my all, and now he hurt me and my family. He's staying at his mom's. I can't even look at him. Seriously sounds like he was trying to rob your parents and steal from you and got caught in the middle of it. A financial advisor who can't get their own finances in order will be a crap financial advisor. He will never do well at his job. This is already evidenced by his duck-up with your parents' stock holdings. He also does not own up to anything, having no funds, making mistakes, etc. He doesn't want your parents' help because he is too fragile to own up to his mistakes, and to even rise above his own twisted ego. He thinks he did them a favor when in reality your parents did him a favor, and not only became his clients, but let his duck out slide. This should have been a fireable offense should your parents really wanted to go down that route. Your soon-to-be ex-fiancé has no career to speak of because he sucks at it. You two will be financially insecure from a cash flow standpoint. It's everyone's fault, not his. He is horrible with finances and can't keep his own crap together, further complicating your household finances. And he's just not dependable for anything. This entire ordeal is probably the best thing that's happened, because now you see what he truly is. An idiot. Do you want to marry an idiot? Quick overview. My older sibling, Jay, 25, was the first to go off to college. My parents bought a car for Jay's graduation. We made a huge deal of it, invited people over to our house, and it was basically a big celebration. Jay traveled abroad for college, all expenses paid for by my parents. 3 years later, I, 22 female, also graduated from high school, and while I didn't get a car or a party, I was over the moon because I received a full scholarship to attain my bachelor degree at an elite university in Chase City. My dad didn't have to pay for anything, not even flights, which were about $500 round trip each time Jay came to visit. I was happy that I could save my dad some money because I was under the impression that we didn't really have that much. In the past, when I went to work during high school, my dad borrowed $2,500 worth of my paychecks to buy my younger sibling, L, school stationery. Since then, I thought that we were really going through a financial crisis, and I should do my best to support my family. Anyway, this year, L, 19, also graduated from high school, and I was already worried how my parents would manage both L and J's college expenses. Apparently, my concern was completely unwarranted, because L was renting an awesome studio and was given my dad's credit card to buy stuff because L had a tough time since we couldn't celebrate his graduation due to virus. So far, so good. L moved into the same expensive city that Jay and I were already living in. I was working 2 crappy jobs because rent here is ridiculous, and I had a series of scans done that weren't covered by insurance, which I had to pay off. Again, I didn't want to ask my parents for money because I thought with the added financial burden of L, we'd go bankrupt if I asked for support. Crap hit the fan when we all went home for Christmas, and while I had to fly with a transit stop to save money with the cheapest ticket, I found out that L and J were flying business. I was already fuming and asked why. My parents said that L did well on his first exams. The grades aren't even out yet, and Jay is finally going to graduate and get his BA. I was gobsmacked, and honestly, tired of traveling for so long that I was just quiet the entire day and ignored everyone. I don't want to be the party pooper. I'm happy that Jay is graduating, but it seems so unnecessary to gift them with A, something so intangible and not worthwhile, and B, something so expensive when they've been saying they're low on money. Yesterday, I was at L's studio, and I heard him FaceTiming my dad, and L was saying that he wants to get a regional driver's license because he misses driving. My dad said verbatim, "If you put your all into your uni, then I'm going to get you a car." My name, college fund, was not used, and it will cover a small new car or a very nice used car. I felt all the unexpressed anger gushing out, and I just screamed, "What?" I can't believe that just because I didn't need the college fund for college, that they would just give it away. My dad said that the college fund was to finance my education, and my college education is already financed. Turns out that these little splurges like L and J's fancy flight were all given out from my fund. He said that L, J, and I are all in college. How that was possible is irrelevant, and in his eyes, we were all equal now. I said that he donated a part of his wealth to them, and not me, and that at least he could have given me a bit of the money that was in it, for better housing, or just in order for me not to work early morning and late night jobs that were wearing me down. In his eyes, it would be unfair to give me my college fund in cash. That would mean he would have to give them money as well. I don't get it. I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable, but this conversation had me crying for so long, and I'm doubting whether I'm right, and maybe what he's saying is true. I'm on my own here, because obviously J and L are not against this situation at all. What gets me here, particularly, is that your siblings don't only have their education paid for, they also have their living, travel, and transportation expenses covered. If you are ready and willing to place a hard boundary between you and your parents, and frankly, I would be in your shoes if the rest of your life parallels what you posted here, I'd make that point. Yes, my tuition was covered. My apartment was not. Why are they worth buying flights and not me? You worry it would be unfair to give me cash, but you have helped them financially in ways that you did not help me. And so you did so from cash you had set aside for my education. You punished me for my educational success. Do not tell me you believe about fairness when you bought Jay a car and promised Elle one, when you wouldn't even help me with medical emergencies. Where is my car? Did they even pay you back the money you borrowed? If not, call them out on their lack of responsibility and mention it every time your father tries to bring up fairness. Again, I'm assuming there are not other ways you have been privileged over your siblings. Your anger and frustration is valid. You do not have to continue to have a relationship with people who repeatedly show you that you are lesser. It is not, you are entitled for wanting a car. It is, I do not want to participate in a family that treats me so unequally and then refuses to listen to me when I try to express my concerns. You should feel free to require a genuine apology that includes recognition of the harm and a plan to make it up to you.